Micah chapter 2, verse 1. Woe to those plotting wickedness and working out evil upon their beds. Right? Doesn't mean those who are doing evil while in bed, although some that's where they do a lot of evil. But the point is, those who go to bed, and you know how when you are trying to fall asleep, well, there are people who just get disconnected like right away. In my case, for instance, it takes a while. I gotta be going back and forth until I fall asleep, unless I stay up and then my body's just passing out pretty much. So, um, so it is normal to, when you're trying to go to sleep, to start thinking about everything that you did during the day, everything that you want to do the next day, plans that you have in life, what you have done wrong, etc. But there are people who get that time, instead of thinking on how they can be better, what they can change in themselves, what they did wrong during that day. There are many who are actually plotting wickedness. They are thinking, what is the next evil they will do? Who is the next person they will take advantage of? That who will they cause pain? So woe to those plotting wickedness and working out evil upon their beds. In the light of the morning, they practice it, because it is in the might of their hand. So because of the way things are in this world, and because Yahweh is good, he gives power, authority, might to, well, we could say to all. Everybody has a certain power and to do a certain thing. However, most people just want the power of a king, the power, right? Absolute power. But whoever it's an employer has power, authority over the employees. And many other ways. The mother, the father have authority over the children. And like I said, there are so many ways in which a person may have some authority or power to hurt others. You could say that anybody has that power just by words. They can hurt somebody, no matter who they are. With the right words, it will hurt pretty much anybody. So, well, I shouldn't say right words, with the wrong words in the sense of evil, right? So, as it says here, woe to those plotting wickedness. They are plotting while they are in bed and working out evil upon their beds, thinking about once they wake up what they are going to do to hurt others, because they have the power to do so. Yahweh allows it so that then he can condemn them, right? Because they couldn't be condemned if they weren't given the time or the opportunity to do that which they were plotting. So many times they, and for like not to say every time, part of the reason why Yahweh allows evil to happen is so that he can then get rid of that evil. Because if that evil wouldn't manifest, then there wouldn't be anything to get rid of, right? My point is that once people do or try to do that evil which they were plotting, that is when they can be guilty of it. So that's why Yahweh gives them time in order to do so, so that they can be guilty of that which they were thinking of. And this is the reality in which evil would exist, so that we choose good, and those who chose evil will be destroyed. So woe to those plotting wickedness and working out evil upon their beds. In the light of the morning, they practice it. That, evil wickedness connects with the night, the darkness, but they plot it while at night, just like even if they are not in bed, they plot it within their heads, their hearts. So it is in the darkness within them, meaning covered, hidden, but then they go and practice it in the light. in the light of the morning, they practice it because it is in the might of their hand. And they coveted fields and seized them. So they coveted fields and seized them. Also houses and took them away. I was talking to a brother. I don't remember who it was or what exactly we're talking about, but he told me about, I'm just trying to remember who the person was, because he was somebody who claimed to be a good person, yet, oh yeah, okay. So the father of an acquaintance, well, a friend of a friend, pretty much, who was running for president during the last elections here in Costa Rica. And they were telling me everything that they knew about this person who wanted to be president, and how he had taken away fields, houses from people who were struggling. So imagine after taking those fields, how those people would be doing. So obviously, to take something that is not yours is already a sin. But then to take away something from somebody who is all that they have, imagine how big of a sin. And since he had knowledge in the laws, pretty much a lawyer, he could do paperwork and fool them into signing a paper that would give him authority over those lands. So it is amazing that people like that exist, and there are many who, if they had the power, would do so. And many times, though, they are the ones running for president or things like that, politicians. And they coveted fields and seized them, and also houses, and took them away. And they oppressed a man in his house and a man in his inheritance. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, see, against this clan, I am planning evil, from which you do not remove your necks, nor walk proudly, for this is a time of evil. Right? We are living in a time of evil. That's why there are so many people like that who are willing to act this way, but Yahweh is planning evil for them. They will fall in the evil that they have built. It's not like Yahweh is evil. It is the fact that they chose evil, so Yahweh allows them to receive that which they worked for. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, see, against this clan I am planning evil, from which you do not remove your necks, nor walk proudly, for this is a time of evil. In that day, one shall lift up a proverb against you, and he shall lament with a bitter lamentation, and shall say, we have been utterly ravaged. He changes the inheritance of my people, how he removes it from me. He apportions our fields to the backslider. Look at how so far this fits what is happening with the land of Israel. Yahweh took the people of Israel out long time ago. Then some people entered and took it over. And then those who control the world started claiming that they were Israelites and decided to make the state of Israel and go in and say that it is their own land when they themselves are not from it. Like the Khazars or others who come from other parts of the world and were not natives of Israel. Obviously, they are not Israelites, even though they claim they are. See, against this clan I am planning evil, from which you do not remove your necks nor walk proudly, for this is a time of evil. In that day one shall lift up a proverb against you, and he shall lament with a bitter lamentation, and shall say, we have been utterly ravaged. he changes the inheritance of my people. How he removes it from me. He apportions our fields to the backslider, right? Just like the fields of Israel are in the hands of backsliders, people who are not his people, but claim to be. And the world, most of them believes it. Therefore, you shall have no one in the assembly of Yahweh to divide the land by lot. You shall have no one in the assembly of Yahweh to divide the land by lot. They decided to divide the land, but they are not of the assembly of Yahweh. And Yahweh himself in the prophets says that those who divide his land will be divided themselves. Right? Just like he also says in the book of Revelation that he comes to destroy those who destroy the earth. Therefore, you shall have no one in the assembly of Yahweh to divide the land by lot. You do not preach, they preach. They do not preach to these. Reproaches are not turned back. So you do not preach, verse 6. Let me see the Hebrew real quick. Oh, yeah. You do not preach, they preach. They do not preach to these. Reproaches are not turned back. Well, it's sad, once again, I repeat, for instance, Christians, when they try to go to the roots, they end up many times in the Messianic Jews, or following just regular Jews who do not accept Mashiach and are filled with commandments of men, chains that they have gotten for themselves. So you do not preach, they preach. They do not preach to these. Reproaches are not turned back. And my point is that they are following preachings that are not from the assembly of Yahweh. They are following preachers who are not followers of Mashiach. Are you called house of Jacob? Has the Ruach of Yahweh been limited? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to the one walking uprightly? Right? Because when evil happens, and like we just saw here, people would take this as a sign, or they would understand from this that Yahweh is evil, for he's planning evil. But that's why he says, are you called house of Jacob? Has the spirit of Yahweh been limited? Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to the one walking uprightly? So is that simple. When you do what he says that you should do, because he created the world and we are in the world, so we should follow the way of Yahweh in order to do right. So do not my words do good to the one walking uprightly. So if you walk uprightly, then you'll be good. But if you don't, then you go through evil. It's just mathematics. We cannot blame him for the wickedness that we may have done, for which we are punished later on. We cannot say when we are being punished, why? Why you do this? You are evil. No, it is a consequence of your wickedness, for which he was willing to pay and forgive. Yet the people wanted to continue. Are you called house of Jacob? Interesting that it says this after reading this that I mentioned, how the false Yahudim claim to be descendants of Israel, but they are not the house of Jacob. Are you called house of Jacob? Has the Ruach of Yahweh been limited? Also in the sense of everything that happens in the world, how dark it is spiritually. So some people actually believe that the spirit of Yahweh has been limited. Maybe he doesn't have as much power as we thought. They would say because of what they see, because what they experience. Are these his doings? Do not my words do good to the one walking uprightly? And lately my people have risen up as an enemy. Lately my people have risen up as an enemy. Yahweh himself is saying that when he comes, he's going to be seen as an enemy, for his people became an enemy. Just like obviously when Mashiach came, he came to his own, but his own rejected him. They saw him as an enemy. And lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip off the robe with the garment from those who trust you. You strip off the robe with the garment from those who trust you as they pass by, those returning from battle. That's right, Omar. It is sad, but very true. That's why Mashiach said you will be hated by all, meaning even your people, even his people. You'll be hated by all for the sake of my name. So when you preach the name of Yahweh and the name of Yahushua to somebody who is a Christian and is supposed to be part of his people, all of a sudden they turn into an enemy. Obviously, not all the time. Sadly, most of the time. And lately my people have risen up as an enemy. You strip off the robe with the garment from those who trust you as they pass by, those returning from battle. Let's see these words because it seems to be a bit different. You strip off the robe with the garment. Okay, yeah. You strip off the robe with the garment from those who trust you. That's what they've been doing. The sheep go to a church trusting a certain pastor, and the pastor, by giving a false doctrine, is actually stripping them off of their garments, leaving them naked and ashamed when the judgment comes. You strip off the robe with the garment from those who trust you. That's sad. They trust the pastors, yet the pastors don't trust them. And I say that because many times I have talked to pastors, Christian pastors, who when I tell them about the name of the Father and the Son, they say they know about it, but they cannot teach it, either because when they were in theology, they told them not to, or in their own opinion, because their sheep are not ready, because the people wouldn't understand, because this and that. So the sheep, the people are trusting their pastors to teach them the way to life. Yet the pastors are saying, no, I cannot teach them that, which is Yahushua, because they may not understand it and feel weird. So I'm going to teach them this lie, which is Jesus. In that way, stripping them off the robe and the garment. You strip off the robe with the garment from those who trust you as they pass by. They pass by to the congregation, they get pretty much stripped off by those who they are entrusting with their souls, pretty much. Those returning from battle. Those who are in a battle, in a spiritual battle, they go trusting these pastors, and what they do is take advantage of them, take everything from them. You have driven the women of my people from their pleasant houses. As in, you have driven the ruchot of my congregation from their buildings where they congregate, their assemblies, their churches. You have driven the women of my people from their pleasant houses. You have taken away my splendor from their children forever. Through the lies they teach, they are taking away the splendor of Yahweh which is within them. For they go and do the opposite of the will of Yahweh, and therefore actually end up farther away from Yahweh than they were before they entered. You have driven the women of my people from their pleasant houses. You have taken away my splendor from their children forever. Arise and go, for this is not your rest. Verse 10. Kumu ulku kilo zot hamenucha. Your rest. Here in menucha, which is rest, in the middle we have Noach. Just like when Mashiach said, the days of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noah, who came to bring rest. That's why also he dies when the Shabbat begins, the millennium. So verse 10, arise and go, for this is not your rest, because uncleanness destroys, and the destruction is grievous. For instance, we are waiting for the rest, meaning the Shabbat, the millennium. Yet people are not thinking about the millennium. They are thinking about a day of 24 hours. And that would be those who are in Judaism or Messianic Jews. But then the Christians, they believe because of the grace, as they say, they are in the rest. And they are just resting, not walking, not fighting. And I say that because Yahushua said, I am the way. Take your cross and follow me. My burden is light. So Yahushua is saying, come on, walk through the way, through the gate. For this is not your rest. Like I always say, Yahushua is the way. He's not the chair. In Christianity, because of the doctrine of the grace, as they see it, misinterpreting Paul, they think that all they have to do is say a couple words, they are forgiven, and then they just have to wait for the rapture. So they rest in this reality, not understanding that they should be walking, getting better, changing, learning, and fighting the good battle, because we are in a spiritual war. So arise and go, for this is not your rest, because uncleanness destroys and the destruction is grievous. Sadly, since they are resting instead of walking, they are resting instead of fighting, they are unclean. And that's why they will be destroyed. Their bodies, at least when it comes to the many. If a man walking after wind and falsehood has lied, verse 11, Luish holech ruach. So for the man that walks after a ruach or spirit, if a man walking after a spirit and falsehood has lied, I preach to you of wine and of strong drink. He shall be the preacher of these people. This is sad. And this is what is going on nowadays as well. The false pastors, or rabbis, or whatever they want to be called, they are walking after a ruach, not after the ruach HaKodesh, just any ruach that inspired them to falsehood and to lie. Because if Yahushua is the truth, then preaching anything else or anybody else, any other name, is falsehood, is lying. Because Yahushua is the truth. So anything else that claims to be or wants that spot is just a liar. If a man walking after ruach and falsehood has lied, this is what they say. Obviously not in the literal sense. This is what they say through their preaching, through their doctrine, through their acting. I preach to you of wine and of strong drink. That's what they want to hear, because they follow the great whore who gives them the wine of her fornication, which is idolatry, that makes them drunk so that they cannot understand reason, truth. That's why they follow a ruach, a wind, and end up lying with falsehood. If a man walking after wind and falsehood has lied, I preach to you of wine and of strong drink. He shall be the preacher of these people. So when a person brings idolatry, something for the emotions to stir them up, something that will lead the people to drunkenness in the spiritual way, then that's what the people want. That's who the people look for, go to. He shall be the preacher of these people. It is sad, but I repeat it again because I think it should be clear how this is going on nowadays. They just preach what the people want to hear. That's why their congregations are filled with people. And they end up drunk, spiritually drunk. They cannot understand what they are being taught. They cannot understand that their teaching is falsehood. And when you bring truth, they reject it. They don't want the water of life. They want a strong drink. He shall be the preacher of these people. And like Yahweh said in the prophets, after they are drunk, then they'll be thirsty, but there won't be water for them. Verse 12, I shall certainly gather all of you, O Jacob. I shall bring together the remnant of Israel. You see how it confirms what we saw in the previous chapter. Yaakov representing the many who don't accept the name. Israel, the few who do accept the name. Who are the few? The remnant. Those who won't have to go through death. But Yaakov will be also gathered, for Yahweh is good, and he will justify them because of their belief in their heart. Because with the heart one believes unto righteousness, but with the mouth confession is made for salvation. I shall certainly gather all of you, O Jacob. I shall bring together the remnant of Israel. Put them together like sheep of the fold. Those who are the many and those who are the few will be put together like the sheep of the fold, like a flock in the midst of their pasture, they being noisy because of men. They being noisy because of men. Now let me go to John 10 for a moment. Verse 14, I am the good shepherd, said Mashiach. Before that, he said, I am the door, the gate. Verse 9, I am the door. That is Yahushua, the first. Yahweh as the first, he is the door. Then, as the last, he says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd goes through the door. So the last needs the first. The last witness like Moshe wouldn't be able to fulfill his mission if there was no door to go through. That door is Yahushua and what he did through his sacrifice. So I am the good shepherd and I know mine, and mine know me. Even as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. I have to bring them as well, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one flock, one shepherd. So other sheep, he knows his, but there are other sheep, right? It says, I know mine and mine know me. Pretty much the remnant, the chosen few, Israel. And other sheep, Jacob, the many, I have which are not of this fold. Also, I know mine, connected to what he came to get in the first coming, and other sheep who he comes to bring to himself during the second coming. Hope that's clear. So once again, I shall certainly gather all of you, O Jacob. I shall bring together the remnant of Israel. Put them together like sheep of the fold, like a flock in the midst of their pasture, they being noisy because of men. This is an important verse. And let me see something else since we got to that verse. Yeah, this is important, sadly. One of the issues that we sometimes find with different translations. Look how verse 12 says, oh, this is huge. Asoph, Esoph. This is the root of the name Yosef. He shall add, or he shall gather. That's why the descendant of Joseph, the last, is the one who will gather the few for the harvest. And through the doctrine, in a way, will gather the many, because through the doctrine, the separation will happen. For many are called, but few are chosen. Asoph, Esoph, I will surely gather, or gathering, I will gather. Jacob. Kulach, Kabates, Akabates. Sheirit, this is the remnant. Sheirit, Israel. So it said, I shall gather all of you, or Jacob, I shall bring together the remnant of Israel. Right here, Kabates, Akabates, bringing together, I will bring them together, pretty much. The remnant of Israel. Yahad, Asimenu, Ketson Bosra. So it says, I shall bring them together, the remnant of Israel. Put them together, that's Yahad. Put them together like sheep of the fold. You see how it says sheep of the fold right here? But here we see that it says like the flock of Bosra. Bosra. Now, let me go to this translation. You see how they have it here? As the sheep of Bosra. So they do have the name of the place. That's why there are people who believe that the prepared place of Revelation 12 for the chosen few will be in Bosra. But it's deeper than that. Because, well, Bosra pretty much means flock. So that's why they translated it on the other translation. You see the fold, sheepfold, enclosure. Sheepfold or fortress. But remember that we read Isaiah 63. Who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments from Bosra? So this is now connecting with Micah. I hope it's understood why. And like I said, sadly, the translating of the word Bosra as fold right here takes away the connection, right? Because you don't see Bosra here, so you don't see how it would connect with Isaiah 63. When it says, who is that? Who is this that coming from Edom with dyed garments from Bosra? This that is exalted in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. So Yahweh is coming from Bosra, like Job was a king in Bosra, because the last comes as a good shepherd, therefore for his sheepfold, meaning he comes for Bosra. his sheepfold as a king, as a Gentile from Edom. So, reading it from here, I will surely assemble, O Jacob, all of thee. I will surely gather the remnant of Israel. I will put them together as the sheep of Bosra. I will put them together as the sheep of my fold, as the flock in the midst of their fold. They shall make great noise, like the chosen few who will sing the song of Moshe and the Lamb after the harvest. I'm sure they will make noise in many ways, in joy and happiness when all of this is happening. They shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men. You see here pretty much the multitude is not there, by reason of men. So the point is, they will be noisy because of how many they will be. There will be so many people when Yahweh gathers the few and the many, that they will be a lot of noise because of the multitude of men. We will be more than the stars of heaven. So imagine the noise, everybody talking to each other, all happy. If, for instance, when we do the congregation here, they're not, I mean, we're few compared to Christian congregations, but you have no idea the noise right after I pray. Once I finish and close the study for the internet, they all start talking, and the noise is amazing for how many people we are. So I cannot imagine 144,000 and even less when we are gathered with the many who are like 100-fold. So they shall make great noise by reason of the multitude of men. So here it was saying it like a flock in the midst of their pasture, they being noisy because of men, because of the many who are within the flock. Now I will read this here and then I'll go to the next one, to the other translation. The breach maker in Hebrew, Allah Haporetz. So he is ascending, the one who opens the breach, or the breach maker. Lifnehem, or Lifnehem, before their face. Partsu, you see how this, the beginning of the word, just like here, the end of this word is peretz. In this case, poretz. In this case, partsu, because of the way the verb is being used. But this is the name of an ancestor of Mashiach, Peretz, the son of Yahudah with Tamar. When twins were born, Peretz and Serach. Yahushua came to open a door. He is the door. We just saw it in John 10, right? Yahushua said, I am the door, because he is the one who came to open a breach for us to be able to reach the Father. And that's why he was a descendant of Peretz, son of Yahudah. So let me see how it says here. The breaker. I mentioned this word in a song in case you ever hear it. The breaker is coming up before them. The breaker, which they are translating here as the breach maker. The breach maker shall go up before them. They shall break out. Who? The few. Now, this is a very important verse, and I'm trying to explain it as simple as possible so that we get everything. But I will say the main thing right away so that then everything falls into place. Here is talking about We have been seeing Micah is the prophet, represents Michael, the Malach of Yahweh, who Yahushua sends as the witness we saw in Revelation 22, who comes to testify of Mashiach and also testify against the world who rejected Mashiach. So he comes as the fire to test the hearts of men to see who are the few, who are the many, and who are the nations. So the last is the one who will come up as the breach maker, because we can do all things through Mashiach who strengthens us. Mashiach is the door. So the last, having Mashiach, who is a son of Peretz in the flesh, the last is able to open the door through the true doctrine, so that the few may be able to go through into the eternal life without experiencing death. But as it says here, the breach maker shall go up before them, because the last will have to die and resurrect before the few flee and are harvested, right? So that's why he goes before them, before in time, and also in the sense of as a leader at the head. So that's why they grab him, kill him, and that is how the breach is open when it comes to the few. But when it comes to the world, the gate will be closed, the gate of mercy. So the breach maker shall go up before them. They shall break out. The chosen few will break out of this reality and pass through the gate, pass through Mashiach, pass through into eternal life, and go out by it, go out of this reality through the gate, who is Mashiach, the true doctrine, after hearing it from the breach maker, who goes before them. And their sovereign pass before them. So the breach maker is their sovereign, who passes before them with Yahweh at their head. For Yahweh is sending the last as the sovereign who opens the gate for them to go through, being himself the breach maker. And the sovereign passed before them. Yahushua came as the Kohen Gadol, the last comes as sovereign, as it appears in Revelation 19, with his clothing all red, like Isaiah 63, because of the winepress of Revelation 14. And it says on his thigh and his robe, King of kings and sovereign of sovereigns. The breach maker shall go up before them, so the last will appear. They shall break out and pass through the gate and go out by it, go out of this reality into the next one through the gate that the last opened, which is Mashiach. And their sovereign, the last, pass before them. Once again, will have to pass through death before the few can go into life with Yahweh at their head, because obviously Yahweh is the head in every way, the head of the last, the head of that sovereign. So he will ascend, who opens a breach before their faces. They will open and pass through the gate, and they will come out with him. They will come out and go out by it. Let me see. And their sovereign pass before them with Yahweh at their head. This will be, and they will come out and go out. They will come out by it. Yeah, that will be with it or through it in this case. Vayabor Malcham. And he will pass the king of them. He will pass their king before their faces. Not only he will go before time, before they go and flee to be at the harvest, but also they will see with their eyes when the last dies and therefore goes through. And Yahweh Berosha, at their head. Berosham, I'm sorry. Berosham. Yahweh at their head. And obviously, it is through Mashiach that Yahweh is our head, right? Mashiach being the head of the congregation, the brain, while the last is the heart. Now, let me see this translation. The breaker is come up before them. They have broken up and have passed through the gate and are gone out by it. And their king shall pass before them, and Yahweh on the head of them. So, a very important verse, chapter, of course, the book itself, but the verse referring to the coming of the last, opening the gate, which is Mashiach, through the preaching of the true Messiah, so that the few can go into life without experiencing death, but after the last is killed. Therefore, opening that breach so that they can go out by it. Him being the sovereign who has to pass before them. Obviously, always having Yahweh at the head. So, hope that's clear.